So, good morning. We have Elise today. Thank you, Elise, so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's amazing to finally talk to you.
Yeah. So, please share with us a bit about who you are, what you do, where you live, where you were born.
Sure. So my name's Elise Addlem. You can probably hear by my accent that I'm Australian. I run the Instagram community and a community of volunteers called Feminists against Antisemitism, which we'll get into in a bit. But my background is basically in academic feminism and philosophy. So with that combined with the fact that my husband is Israeli, I've lived in Israel in a number of different countries. That's how I came to be really passionate about this issue of anti-Semitism.
Right. Okay. So you're Australian, and where do you live now?
I live in Bucharest, actually, in Romania. Yeah, we've lived in quite a few different places, and so now we're in Romania. It's a lovely place to live.
Okay, great. So you've also lived in Israel yourself.
Yeah, I've lived in Israel. My husband is Israeli, and I lived there for a couple of years. Did Ulpan, and yeah, so I have a very strong connection to Israel.
Right. Okay. So I got to know you through this brilliant initiative that you started after October 7th, Feminists Against Antisemitism. So you've already touched a little upon it, but could you please share with me what motivated you to start like so soon after October 7th?
Sure. So before that, I was basically working on a business where I was doing feminism classes for everyday people. The idea was that I would be able to teach feminism to people outside of an academic setting. Then immediately on October 7 and the days after, it became extremely clear, scarily clear, that the feminist community was not having what I considered a normal reaction to what happened. On the one hand, I had my Israeli family, my friends there. You know, my husband and I were glued to Israeli TV where we were horrified about what happened. Meanwhile, I saw all these feminists online from countries like America, Australia, where I'm from, most of them who really didn't know anything about Israel, and they were saying these horrible, horrible things about it. They were saying it was just, you know, resistance is justified. They were saying that this is fine. They were saying things that really didn't align with feminist values. And I, first of all, on a personal level, but also on a theoretical and social level, I was absolutely horrified. And really, Feminists Against Antisemitism just began as something for myself because I felt like I needed an outlet to share what I was feeling, my horror and my outrage. And through that, I really quickly was connecting with so many Jews, mostly Jews, but also wonderful allies. And yeah, just grew really quickly like that because there were so many people who are feminists, who do have liberal values, but just felt totally isolated from the community as Jews or allies.
Yeah. So when did you actually start it? Like, how long was it that you realized, how much longer after October 7th did you realize, well, these women are not speaking up, or they are speaking like completely different things?
It was really quick. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks after that I started it. Basically, 2 weeks after October 7, I think I said to my husband, I don't think that I can do this feminist business right now because all of my clients, all of the people I was interacting with, not everyone, but a large portion of people, actually more so than clients, it was colleagues, other people who were feminists. People were totally dehumanizing Jews, totally dehumanizing Israelis. And I thought on a personal level, I have a Jewish daughter, a Jewish Israeli daughter, and you do not care about my child.
Right.
You are in the feminist community, you are working in the feminist community, and you actually, it seems to me, wouldn't care if my child got harmed. And so to me, that's felt horrifying. And so it was clear straight away. And I know that so many Jews were aware of this a long, long time ago. And, you know, it was just my naivety because I did see it and talking to my Jewish husband, you know, we did talk about all those signs on the far left that were issues, but I frankly was naive and didn't realize how bad it was.
Right.
So that's really my fault, and I think it just became abundantly clear just a couple of weeks after October 7th.
I think October 7th brought really many things to light, right? I mean, I know in America especially, or even I live in Germany, I know that the Jewish community to a large extent is liberal, you know, and then you see suddenly they feel like, oh, well, what about our other liberal colleagues? Why are they suddenly why don't they care? It is so outrageous, actually. So
yeah, and you know, a lot of I talked to so many Jews over the course of the last 10 months. I've talked to people almost every day. I have chats and people tell me that for them individually as liberals who are Jews, then they feel so conflicted because, you know, they really want to maintain those liberal values, and they do. They're their core values. It's not about society. It's about what they believe is right, no matter the situation. But then they feel this massive conflict because they think, where do I sit? And frankly, it seems to be even worse for Jews who have multiple different identities, marginalized identities, like if they're queer, you know, if they're a person of color, if they're poor, all these different things, then they have even more issues with it and even more trouble because also, obviously, it's Disability Pride Month, and I've been talking to disabled Jews who are saying as well that within the disability advocacy world, also as Jews, they're feeling marginalized. So they're really, you know, they had these communities that they felt were safe spaces for them. Safe space is a term that's used a lot on the left, and it's kind of ironic because, you know, there were these places that were created as so-called safe spaces, and then they've been the exact opposite for these Jews, and it's really, really heartbreaking.
Right. So it's like really selective activism because even in those safe spaces, because they are Jewish, they are discriminated against. It's just, it's crazy, really. Now, would you please define, before we go further, because you've been in this field for quite some time, what do you define or how do you define feminism?
Well, I actually define it in a way that is quite unique in some ways, because while a lot of people would define feminism as a liberation movement for women, this is a part of it for me, but I define feminism as a movement for the equity and liberation of all people. So I think that patriarchy, which is a society which is dominated by men, dominated by ideas of what masculinity is, this oppresses everyone. Not only women, but all people. This makes life worse for everyone. So I think the feminism is a movement to liberate everyone from these oppressive ideas.
So that's why I guess it affects you even more personally to see this like really selective activism and silence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also, you know, I studied and worked in ethics for a long time in philosophy, and, you know, it's quite incredible the way that ideology, the way that this sort of cult-like thinking can really overcome people, no matter how smart they are, no matter how much critical thinking they have, because a lot of far leftists, a lot of people who are really into liberationary ideals, who are into feminism, they really do, to an extent, believe that they want everyone to be free. But this ideology of anti-Semitism is just so strong that it weaves its way through this, so that not only is it counter to it, but they actually make it a part of the liberatory discourse.
Yeah.
And this is the incredible, scary thing, that they make it a part of the discourse by saying that Israelis are white supremacists and the Palestinians are the oppressed ones, when of course it's a extremely complicated situation which cannot be defined by simple sentences like that. Jews are indigenous to the Judean Peninsula, and then Palestinians are Arabs, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that they don't also deserve freedom and a good life. I think that most people I talk to, you know, most people who are liberal Jews or allies, they do want a good life. They want happiness. They want peace for Israelis and Palestinians. And so, you know, seeing people that are so smart being consumed by this cult-like thinking, it's really scary. But of course, you know, when we look at history, or any Jew will tell you that it's nothing new. This is the same thing that happens over and over again. And it's just, I guess, so shocking to see how it unfolds in our lifetime on a day-to-day basis, how it really gets stronger and stronger.
Right. I think what you mentioned, there's nothing wrong. In fact, people who want liberation for all people, there is nothing wrong, absolutely, you know, in saying that I'm pro-Palestinian in the sense that I want freedom for them and self-determination rights, or, you know, living a life of dignity. It's just basic human. We all want that, right? But what has shocked me is really this selective. Why is one side always portrayed as so bad and the other side always the poor ones? But not only that, why are then Jews around the world targeted? You know, that is really anti-Semitism, right?
Absolutely. So there's really, yeah, I think that's really two separate and important points. So first of all, this way that it's been framed, I think very successfully, by Qatar, by Iran, by this really systematic campaign to frame things this way, which then the media has participated in, to some extent, I think unknowingly, but they really well participated in providing this narrative, which does frame it as good versus evil.
Yeah.
And when you start to do that, then yeah, you obviously people love that because it's really easy. And this is the thing with ethics, it's actually never really true that there's a really good side and a really bad side. Sometimes things are like that, but when you get to actual ethical problems, it's almost never true that you can say that this is 100% the really clear ethical choice and this is 100% the really bad choice, or this person themselves is 100% evil and this person is not. I think unfortunately, you know, when you get to these really big political actors who they do so many horrible things and just seem to embody what we could consider evil. In the case of them, maybe then unfortunately we do have to say, you know, these are actually bad people. But when it comes to everyday people participating in this stuff, you can really say this is 100% good, 100% bad. So I think, and I'm certainly not the only one to say this, that really we should not be portraying this, and it does an injustice to all people to portray this as one group of people versus another group of people. Most Israelis want peace. I think that, you know, Palestinians in Gaza, because of Hamas silencing them, we do not know how many actually want peace. We also know that indoctrination from a very young age plays an important role, and we can't deny that. But I still refuse to believe that there are not Palestinians from Gaza out there that just want to live a normal life of dignity. So really what we should be talking about in this discourse of liberation is how can all people move toward a life of dignity, a life of peace. When you talk to most Israelis, that's what they want. They just think enough of this, enough living like this generation after generation. They just want to live everyday life, really basic things that every human being deserves. The second point you made about using the war in Gaza to then be anti-Semitic to Jews around the world is equally important, I think, because unfortunately, I think this really shows how deep anti-Semitism is, the fact that people could so quickly flip like that and believe these conspiratorial ideas, believe that, you know, somehow all Jews around the world are responsible for a war on the other side of the world. It's absolutely absurd. Imagine if, you know, every Chinese person you blamed, imagine if every Chinese person you met, you blamed for the Chinese regime, the way they treat the Uyghur people or anything else that goes on there. Imagine if, you know, you met a Syrian person and you blamed them for what Assad did. It's absurd.
Yeah.
And people seem to understand it's absurd until it comes to Jews, which just shows how deeply embedded anti-Semitism is in our discourse and in our understanding of the world, that people so easily accept this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could go on about it for too long because it frustrates me so much.
It's frustrating, right? But the other thing they say is, yeah, we have nothing against Jews. We have something against Israel, yet evidence shows something else, right? Now there are,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah. Now there are many things that are super outrageous and frustrating and disappointing, to say the least, about or since October 7. Now you are engaging with a lot of different people, and you're on social media and you see things and hear things. What is the one thing that you would say has shocked you to the core since October 7th?
I think it is the way that people who are really well-known, either feminists or anti-racism activists, have justified civilians being taken hostage, and have also talked about how either tried to say that rape didn't happen or tried to say that it was justified. This I cannot get over, because not only is it the fact that any human being justifies, well, first of all, for any human being to justify this and to say it's okay in certain circumstances is absolutely morally outrageous. But for people who have a platform, you know, often they've written books, they give seminars, they've read endlessly on talking about human rights, talking about liberation. And just like that, they can say, no, it's fine that these people were taken hostage. It's fine that they were raped. Really, this is, it's deeply, deeply disturbing to me as someone who, you know, thinks and talks and writes a lot about collective liberation, about trying to make life better for everyone. It really gets to me that people can even think something like that, you know, and then they can say it and keep trying to justify it. Honestly, that's something I still grapple with, you know, because I just don't understand how a human being can think that. You know, I would never think I can just never imagine thinking that about any person, you know, that it's totally fine, something bad happened to them. You know, we can say in a war, horrific things happen, and unfortunately we're in a war, and, you know, and so forth. But first of all, this was not in a war. What happened on October 7, that was during so-called peace times, even though, of course, Hamas and Islamic Jihad are always launching rockets on Israel. It's like, relative to the situation, peacetime. As well as that, I just think that this is a real reckoning within the feminist community. And from this, we really need to collectively think, you know, those of us who have maintained our values, that we think liberation for all people is still important, and that we think that, you know, we can still continue to have a conversation about how we can all have a better life, as complicated and messy as it is. We really need to think about this. We need to face this reckoning and think, how did we get to this point? And how can we overcome this in a theoretical way and in our lives with each other? Because truly, it's like it's a real fork in the road for feminism, I think.
Right. Now, how are you using your platform, Feminists Against Antisemitism, in combating anti-Semitism or educating people about what's going on in Israel or the hostages? I mean, can't believe that there are still almost 10 months and still hostages. Yeah. How are you using practically?
Look, I feel like it's just like a drop in the ocean, you know. Everyone, all of us are just trying to do what we can and are hoping that collectively we are all raising our voices for the hostages and for Israelis. So, you know, I will post as much as I can, and I will collaborate with the families of hostages and different things like this. Another part to do with the hostages is that I really think it's important to talk about how the feminist community and the social justice community is really betraying their values and not advocating for the hostages. And it doesn't matter if they're pro-Palestine, anti-Palestine, for everyone. This is irrelevant. There's hostages that are being taken, being held underground by a terrorist organization. It really doesn't matter who you stand for. You should also stand for these people. And so, yeah, I think just trying to talk about that as much as possible. As well as that, I try to really, in ways that I can, give a voice to Jews all over the world who are feeling scared, who are feeling really gaslit by communities that are telling them, no, nothing's happening, everything's fine. Almost everyone I know has lost some or many friends. So really trying to, educate in that way by saying, look, this is real people. These are real people. They are feeling this way. I just hope that, you know, even if it's a few people that aren't Jewish or that don't know about the issue, that are going to see this and they're going to start to learn or understand, then I think it makes a difference. And it has to make a difference. You have to believe in that. You have to believe that slowly people who are in the centre, who maybe don't know that much about this for whatever reason, they can learn and they can come to understand that this is a huge humanitarian issue.
Right. So you're, on the one side, you're educating people through your social media, and on the other side, you're also providing a safe space for Jews and allies who feel they've lost friends. And so you have
I always think of it like that, like kind of having this dual capacity or function, to have that community and also educate.
Now you have grown significantly on Instagram, let's say, with the number, purely by the number of followers. So, which means that, yes, people are listening to you. And even if some people may not follow you actively, they may go on to your feed and check information, right? Because the Instagram algorithm.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, but that's actually true. That's a hopeful thing.
Because Instagram algorithm or Instagram feed often shows, you know, these suggestions or whatever, and then maybe people see that, but maybe they hit a like or maybe not, because they are actively like not wanting to support you, let's say, but that does not mean that your message has not reached them. So let's hope, especially for those who are sitting on the fence or even actively against, but hearing your message. So
I think as well, like it's you know, it's such a collective thing. Like there are so many people since October 7, yourself included, that just do such an amazing job online and offline of really trying to spread the word. And I really think that, you know, every little bit can help, and everyone is working so hard, and it's really amazing to see.
Now, you mentioned that you also collaborate with the hostage families. Like to make some posts or reels or
just like I will so on Instagram you can just basically like either I can work behind the scenes with them to like make something myself, or a lot of the time they will just ask me to share a post and things like this. And I mean, that's just the easiest thing in the world, you know, like there's no reason I wouldn't do that. You know, these families are going through absolute hell, and I just hope that, you know, the more of us that can share this, the more of us that can spread it. Like you said, maybe it will pop up on someone's feed or something like that who doesn't know that there are Israeli hostages being held in Gaza. Maybe they're not people that pay attention to this, you know. And the more people that know, the better, because really this is a situation that should not be happening whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a worldwide humanitarian crisis, really.
Absolutely.
I can't think of ever a situation like this, and so many hostages, not like 1 or 2 hostages we are talking about, right? And that too for months. What do you think when you interact with some of these hostage families, family members? Is there a lot of like hopelessness, or are they hopeful, or what's the general?
I think that it depends, but I think that everyone, I mean, I'm just in absolute admiration, these people are in a situation that no one should have to be in. And it's just, I mean, it's just absolute hell. And I think that they kind of, the message I get, and this is it can be my interpretation, but it's that they're just relentlessly hopeful. They have to maintain hope just to get by.
Right.
And yeah, I can understand that. But we know that all hostage families have different ideas about what should happen and I think that that's really important to listen to everyone's voices. But I think, yeah, they just somehow maintain hope, and that's really incredible. But that's what we all have to do, really. I think we can kind of learn from them. I get a lot of inspiration from them. If they can keep going,
Right.
Then we all can.
Yeah, which was like gonna be my next question for you. If you have any message for your community to hang in there and continue to raise our voices for those people held in hostage. I mean, because we're coming up to 10 months, and I know it's just slowly getting like, wow, what's going on, and I can imagine that some people are beginning to feel hopeless. So
Yeah,
we can draw so much strength and hope from these hostage families.
absolutely. And I guess I would say also that, one thing I do, and maybe others can try and do as well, is to pick your battles, especially online, because there's just so much nonsense, so many trolls, so many bots that are not even real people, and they're there just to make you feel horrible, to make you feel hopeless, and they're not worth interacting with. Save your energy, protect yourself for those conversations or for that activism that is actually worth it, because you can't just all day fight with trolls and then also have important conversations and things that might actually have an impact, because it's like soul crushing.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Choose your battles. I mean, since you're so much in the forefront in the online war and media war, social media war, how do you take care of your own mental health?
I think definitely not engaging with the trolls for sure. Like I've blocked so many people, and I have no qualms with it, with people that say horrible anti-Semitic things or just horrible things in general. And like I said, a lot of them are trolls or bots. So either they're people sitting in some sort of paid office of people that their whole job is to be a troll and to harass people and to try and convince people of a certain political message, or they're just they're not even a person. So I have no qualm with that at all. And I think that really allows me not to, be totally overwhelmed. I also do things which I feel kind of guilty about, but it's what allows me to keep doing everything, which is I don't always reply to everyone's comments and things like that. And I really, really wish that I could, because I really, really want to talk to everyone personally, but some days more than others, I just don't have the energy for that. So I guess, yeah, just making those boundaries and doing what you can. And of course, taking time off social media. Everyone says that that's something you can do for your well-being. And for me, because, I think what I do on social media is so important to me, and I know it's important to other people. I need to take that time off so that then when I come on, I have energy to advocate.
Right, you're more charged, I guess. Like
yeah, don't feel totally like, oh God, I can't be on here.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point, because I've heard from several like big Israel advocates as well, the need to just take some time out. Hey, you were in Israel not too long ago, right? Even though for a short time that I understood. What were your impressions? What were your main take-home points?
So yeah, I was in Israel, but just for such a short time. So I think that probably impacted what my impression would be. I was just there for 3 days to visit family. Unfortunately, we couldn't get more time off work, but I still was so glad to be there. And, you know, of course, the first overwhelming thing that everyone has when they visit Israel is this feeling that the hostages are with us everywhere, the absence of the hostages. And you really feel that with everything you do. You know, the images are everywhere. There's posters about them. And so you really feel that everything you're doing, you know, we're all just have this whole. And so that was really confronting. As well as that, I really got the feeling from everyone, you know, people that I know, especially, just everyone just really wants to go on with life as normal. Everyone just wants this to be over and to just have regular things, regular life. And Israelis are so amazing at maintaining a regular life throughout the worst things. But, you know, it's tricky. It's there's so hard what's going on, and everyone's just so sick of the situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, that was my feeling. With one thing you do realize, like no matter which shop you go to or on buildings, you have the hostages
Yeah.
everywhere. I mean, we can't forget them, and just wish like more in the world would still realize, that there are hostages, and that's the part we can do, right? Still keep talking about them. Now, what, who do you think are some of the people that others can follow for good, solid news or advocacy about the situation in Israel? Because there's so much on social media, you can easily get overwhelmed, especially for someone who's trying to get into this field or find out like good information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I suppose there's different things. I mean, news is one thing, but um, for news, I can send you some if you want. You can put it in the notes. But in terms of, I can think of more off the top of my head for like general knowledge about the situation, what's happening. So, you know, anyone who is already on Jewish social media, I'm sure they'll already know these, but hopefully some other people can get some new tips. So Roots Metals is a very good one. Debbie is a historian and she shares really well-researched information. And she's not, like, she's really trying to be fair, you know? She's not saying extreme things about anyone. And yeah, you know, you can really learn so much, and I learned so much from her. I think as well as that, I think, who else? Let me think. Maybe I'll have to send you a list because there's so many, and I'm just trying to think if you only had a few. But I think Roots Metals is the one that you know everyone says, and there's a reason, because she's doing something on social media that no one else really, I think, is doing, which is actually sharing really well-researched information with sources on social media.
Yeah, and a lot of history as well. She gives a lot of like historical facts, and also which is really, which is, Roots Medal is a great source. Yeah, thank you. Now, I'll just start wrapping up, but before that, any specific message you want to give for our Jewish friends and non-Jewish allies around the world in this massive fight against anti-Semitism, which doesn't seem to get any better. It just seems to get worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately it's going to be a long fight. And I'm not worried though, because I know the Jewish people are so incredibly strong. And honestly, I'm inspired every day by how strong Jewish people are, how strong Israelis are. And I know that Jews will prevail always. And for allies, I think that we can just, you know, draw strength from seeing how Jews are able to persevere through everything, and you know, at least what I think is, if they can persevere through all this, okay, I can keep going too, because this is important.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Elise. I think you are, you know, we can all do our part, but you are doing such an incredible job, and also like giving inspiration to so many people, you know, in your community. So that's amazing. Thank you. Keep
Oh,
up.
thank you so much. And I really admire all the work you're doing as well. It's amazing.
Thank you. Well, we keep supporting one another.
Yeah, that's how we all keep going.
Yeah. Well, have a great day, Elise. Thank you.
You too. Take care.
Yeah.